Alright, so your Firebird rear hatch has a motor that pulls it down, but it doesn't want to go down. As you can see, mine's stuck in the up position. I'll open up the trunk, rear hatch with the button. It releases it, comes up just fine, and you can hear the motor running non-stop. Okay, it's not stopping. You just hear the motor on. If I go to push this back down, you can hear the motor still on, trying to, but it can't do anything. Okay, so obviously there's something wrong. The only way for me to stop the motor is to literally unplug my battery. Good thing I got a disconnect on here. I could just disconnect it right there. I'm going to explain to you in this video how to fix this. Alright, so remove this little panel here. There's two screws here, one here, and you know it's got these little plastic things you take out from the sides. It's got this little clip in here. It's got a little tab right here on the back side. Just pull this one back, and then if you have your light, some cars have with the light, just unplug your light and remove this because it's in the way. We do know that the motor is working because we can hear it. So now you want to go and check the plastic housing on here, because they are plastic, which is this thing right here. Alright, so on inspection you can see this crack right here. The plastic has cracked all the way through here. There's a crack down here. So this is probably our problem. The motor is working, so we know there's a problem right there. So I went and picked up the plastic part online, and this is actually a GM part, old stock, but they sell a lot of aftermarket ones of these that you can get online. I'll actually put it in the description where you can get one on Amazon or whatever, below on the description for you guys. So if you need one, just click on the link, it'll take you right to it, and I'll try to find the most affordable one. I might put if they have an original GM, I'll put it. If not, I'll just put the aftermarket one. If I can find both, I'll put a link to both of them. And that should fix the problem. But now I gotta go and take the motor out and disassemble everything. Alright, so I was looking down at the bottom of the trunk, and I noticed there was a couple bolts down there. And this bolt actually fell out from that plastic cracked area right here. You can see the bolt's missing. There's two here and one here, and that's exactly where the bolt fell into the trunk, because it cracked where it tightens right there, as you can see. So anyways, 11 millimeter, you want to unbolt these 3 bolts, and that's at the bottom of where the motor is. And what you want to use is just use a ratchet with 11 millimeter on here. These are actually pretty loose already, because the whole motor was just kind of flopping around right there. So those 3 bolts are removed. Alright, so next, after removing those 3 11 millimeter bolts on the side here, this thing is loose. See this? So you should be able to just pull this right out by pushing down on it, just like that. Okay. All right. So now we're gonna take this plug out here and inspect this. And there's literally cracks all through this. There's a crack all the way through here, and where there was supposed to be a screw here, you can see there's no screw. It actually fell out in my trunk. There's the screw. That was Phillips head screw. Popped right out. It's not even in there, so I'm gonna take this little plastic clip off here. piece of the motor or that off. And you can see there's a screw here, and okay, there's another screw that fell out that was in my trunk. So there was 3 screws in my trunk that fell out. There's the other one. That one went here. See that? And then I got only one more left, which is right here. So that's holding on to this little plastic housing. So yeah, this thing's cracked in like 3 or 4 different spots. So again, 11 millimeter to get these 2 bolts out here. I only got to remove one because the other one fell out. There's the screw. Alright. That's how that looks right there. Get that up in there. There it is, the housing, the plastic. Alright, so let's see if we got the same one. Yep, it is. Everything looks the same. So that's cool. And let's see how this is on here. Looks like it's just, yeah, it's just pushed on. Literally just came right off, just like that. So that one comes off. Take this one and put this one on. Piece of cake. Alright, so there's the housing again. Again, there's a crack here. On one of the, there's a crack here. On both of these mounts, it's got cracks. This one's totally cracked off right here real bad, and it's split all the way down here and cracked up there. See that? That thing was barely hanging on. Yep, total garbage right there. I'm going to take some white lithium grease and just put it on this thing right here, just like that. A little bit in here. Alright, so at the bottom here you'll find this piece screwed on. Unscrew it from there, and you want to inspect this little piece that's screwed to that, because there's little bearings in there, right in here, if you can see that bearings, and you want this to freeze. You want it to spin freely, and you can see when I'm spinning, it's kind of stopping. It's not spinning too good, and that's because that grease is so old that it's kind of like gummed up, kind of like clay. So I'm gonna scrape it out, and I'm gonna put some white lithium grease in there and re-grease that, and yeah, make sure these notches are not messed up. This one seems to be good, but if they have broken teeth, then you're going to want to replace this too. Alright, so put grease in there. It's spinning nice and freely now. See that? Alright, let's put this back together. You know, putting it back together is the same as removal. Just do it the opposite. Goes back on. Make sure this thing has got the little plastic tip in the front. You want it backwards. Put this in. 2 bolts go in. At the top right here, just like you did when you moved it. Alright, when you're screwing in these 2 bolts right here, that one and this one over here, make sure you don't do it too tight. It is plastic you're going into. The plastic is not pre-threaded, so it's got those bolts are self-threading bolts. So just be careful. If you hear any, you know, you don't want to crack it. Just kind of get it nice and snug. All right, next you're going to put this plastic back in. This is actually where it has a switch to let you know that the motor's all the way down, and to stop the motor, and you can see it's right here. Alright, so when this thing was broken, it was easy to get this out, but now that it's all put together and nothing's broken on it, it's almost impossible to get this to fit where it needs to go because it's too tight. Can't get it in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this this little thing out right here, this nut off, so I can pull the metal bracket off. And there's the nut coming off right there. Okay. Just take some pliers or some needle noses and pull that out. Alright, so I pulled out the little bolt right there, and now I have room to get in there, as you can see. Alright, so make sure when you install this that the switch here is pointed to the down position and under this piece, this rod here. Okay, this little rod that sticks out. Try to get some lighting. Okay, so this rod right here, make sure that this switch, it's very important because you can break it if you don't have it right. Make sure the switch is down in this position, and this switch needs to be under this metal piece right here, this rod, because when it goes down, this switch, this triggers the switch down. This one down here, right here, flips the switch back up. So if you have this thing in the up position, okay, and you mount this and it's above that striker, you're gonna break it because it's gonna break, because it's gonna hit this is gonna hit that switch, and it's not gonna allow it to go up, and it's probably gonna break this plastic. So make sure it's in the down position. Okay, down position, and you mount it under it. Alright, so take your little screw, put it in the hole there. I just installed it, and you can see the switch right here is under that metal tab. Be very careful to do this correctly, because if you don't, and I don't see any videos online talking about this, make sure the switch is down, because if you put it up here, that thing's going to hit it and it's not going to have nowhere to go, and it's going to keep hitting it and forcing it to go up, and it's not going to allow it because of the switch. Okay? Remember, when it comes down, it flips the switch off. When it's up, it's on. So when this motor starts going up, it's going to flip the switch up, which is going to allow it to go back down, and when it comes down, it hits the switch down and turns it off. That's what lets the trunk know, hey, okay, it's all the way down, shut off the motor. And when it comes up, the switch goes up. It's kind of like a relay switch, I'm guessing, that turns back on the relay, so when it's reactivated, it can turn off. That's all it's for. But again, it's a lot easier to mount this where it's up, and I'll show you that in a minute. I'll do it wrong in a minute and show you how easy it is. Alright, so I just mounted it in the wrong position. You can see the switch is up here, and the metal tab is right here. Okay, you can see it right there, touching it right there. So that's the wrong way, and that's an easy thing to, you know, miss. So make sure you do it right and you have that thing down, not up. Alright, now we put the motor back on. Put the bolt through with the little lock nut. It just clips right on with the push, real easy. And next I'll put my clips back on. These are aftermarket ones that are better than, because the GM ones usually break and they're brittle, so I bought aftermarket ones that I put on. So I'll put those back on, and I think they're, I forgot what they're made of, ABS I think or something. These just go right on those ends, and then I'll start sliding this back up on there. Alright, got those back on, and then we should be able to slide this back up. Alright, got this thing slid in place. I needed 2 hands to do it. Okay. And once that's up in there, you want to line up those 3 holes with the motor here. And again, install those 3 bolts. Don't tighten them too tight. You don't want to break them. It's just going into plastic. Okay. And then we'll take our cord here and plug this one back in. I think that's the only one we really disconnected for the cables to it. And that's pretty much it. I think we're ready to test this out. See if it works. Alright, so it's all put back together. Alright, seems to be working. The motor does sound a little weak, but it seems to be okay for now. But it's probably going to go out next, because these are, you know, old cars and everything seems to like to go out on them. So, but that's how you fix the plastic housing to the motor. If the motor goes bad, it's easy to unbolt that as well. It's connected to the same housing. If you want to do all of it at once, you can. But in my case, I just did the housing because my motor's still good. You can see it. I brought it down pretty flush. But it's not bad. Alright, so I actually had to raise my motor, the 3 bolts, the big bolts. I think there's 13 millimeters, there's 3 of them. I had to loosen them and raise this whole bracket up a little bit because it was not going down enough that it was hitting that little switch that allowed it to go, the motor to go back up. So what was happening is I was opening the trunk was opening, but this striker was all the way at the bottom still because that switch didn't engage it to come back up. I probably can go down just a little bit more, but it seems to be fine right here. And you hear that click, click. If you don't hear the click at the very end, then that means that thing's too low and is not allowing this trunk to engage that switch that I showed you guys earlier, so which means when you pop the trunk, the thing's not going to come back up. And you can hear it coming up. See, and that's what you want. So again, if this thing doesn't come back up, you have this thing too low. You need to raise it up some. Alright guys, hope this helps.